Welcome. Here's a walkthrough of one of our new exciting features in identity governance in Azure Active Directory, custom actions for entitlement management assignments and workflows. So I'm excited about this because it's going to enable customers to really enact those simple and complex business processes across Azure Active Directory or third-party services. It really depends on what the process that you want to do. Maybe you want to send custom emails, you want to post things to Microsoft Teams or other third parties. Maybe you want to open a service desk ticket to ship somebody a new FIDO2 security key. It really is up to you and what you want to design and how we can trigger these from our capabilities in identity governance today. So let's do a quick review of the feature we're talking about here. So we're actually going to go to look at the Azure AD blog that we actually announced this on. So this week was Ignite. So there's many features that were here, but we're really just focused on this demo of the capabilities that we're adding to entitlement management. So this was in this blog post here. And we are going to go to the actual documentation. So it is AKMS EM Logic Apps. So in here, we walk through what the process is to actually create and assign a logic app as a custom action to an access package. So it can be invoked during that process when access is being requested and assigned. So you can read this here, but let's actually do the walkthrough of what this looks like. So I'm actually going to sign into one of my lab tenants as an admin. So I created a profile here to make it simple in Edge. The purple is the admin here. So now we're going to be going to sign in with an admin account. So this is one of my admin accounts. And because I don't like passwords and I don't use them anymore, I'm using password list FIDO2 security keys to sign in to my tenant. So this gives me the ability to have strong authentication to satisfy the conditional access policies I have on such critical accounts. So once I'm in the Azure AD portal, we're actually going to go to the identity governance section of Azure AD. And I want to call out here, we have some really new getting started guide for many scenarios of bringing identity governance to your organization. So if you haven't had a chance to look at these, highly recommend this. These are great starting points to learn all the capabilities you have today. So we're actually going to go and create a scenario that when I onboard an external partner to access our teams we're collaborating on, I want to send a custom email message. It's a simple workflow, but I think it's something that many organizations would like to see, being able to kind of craft that communication or do those customization of things however they see fit using Logic Apps. So to do this, we're actually going to go create a catalog. I'm going to call this ID Partner Demo 2. I've done a few of these, so let's look at this. So I'm going to call this catalog. And this is going to contain all the resources and access packages that I want to make available to this partner. So access for the ID partner organization. So you would use catalogs if you want to constrain or consolidate the resources or delegate who can manage assignment of those resources in your organization. Maybe it's a divisional admin, an organization admin, or maybe a client manager who works with that client. So in here, we're going to say it's enabled, and it's enabled for external users because that's the intent of the resources I'm going to be added into here. So now, as an admin, I'm going to go and add some resources. I actually have a team that I created earlier, so it's going to call this ID Partner Project. So we can see that I've added to the catalog, but now I want to say that when somebody onboards to this package or packages assigned for these resources, I want to be able to create a custom action to send them a custom email. So we're going to add a custom extension. So we're going to say send custom welcome mail. Send custom welcome mail. And I recommend giving it a name that you are familiar with and a description that makes sense in your organization. Now, when I go through the wizard here, I can actually go and create a new logic app. So we're actually going to start there, but I could have picked an existing logic app. So if I had these already defined in my organization, I can utilize those. But in this case, I'm going to create from brand new. So when we create a logic app, we're actually creating an application to represent this app. And if we're familiar with the Microsoft Identity Platform, they should all be familiar with creating applications. So we're going to say send custom welcome logic app. And we're going to click register. And you'll see that it created the application and specified the app ID here. So now I'm going to pick the subscription that I want to create my Logic app in, and let's give it a name. So I'm going to say send custom email. Now, Logic apps do need to not have spaces, so I'm actually going to put an underscore or a dash here. So if you had tried to put a space, you would have gotten a syntax error on the screen telling you you need to replace that with the proper character. So since I know them, I'm just going to create them. So now we're deploying this Logic app, and it's actually being created using Azure resources in the background. You can see the status here, but we'll get an update of when this Logic app is complete. And then once it's completed, we can actually finish our creation of the custom extension. So we can see here, this is what it's going to name, the app ID, resource group, everything that's associated with that custom extension. So now we have a custom extension. We have resources in the catalog. Now let's go and create an access package to make that resources available to my partner. So here, I'm going to call this package ID Partner Onboarding Demo. Demo of ID Partner Onboarding. Let's call it with custom email. Now this is the name that your partners will see, so you should be, something that's descriptive to what the intent is. But here I'm adding the team, and because I can describe not just the team itself, but the role in the team, I'm actually going to say the member of this team. So when access is assigned to this package, they will become our assigned member of that team. So using the power of the policies in entitlement management, I'm going to make this package available to only that organization. So because I specified that connected organization previously in my environment, I actually can select that here. So only users from that ID partner organization can be assigned here. But I could have made it to all connected orgs or any user who's not yet defined in my organization here, or my tenant here for the organization. So I'm going to require approval, and I'm going to pick a specific approver only for the purpose of this demo. So I'm actually going to use the same admin account just for simplicity's sake, but you can be as prescriptive as you need. I'm going to say not requiring justification. You'll see why in a bit. So I'm going to enable this for new requests. This means it can be assigned or requested. But because I'm may need more information to make a decision if I should approve, I'm actually going to ask a question here. What part of our organization do you work with? Because maybe I need to collect additional information before I decide to approve this. So I can use different types of answer formats, short, long text, or multiple choice. I'm going to pick a short text here. So now we're going to go to the life cycle. So I'm going to say, by default, this access is good for a year. And over that year, the user, self-review, has to reattest they still need access every quarter. And I could say that if they don't respond, what do I do? How do I take action on that? So if the user doesn't respond, I'm going to remove access. So this helps if that partner we've onboarded no longer works for that organization. We're going to remove them from our assignments in our organization. So this builds some of that identity governance for external users as part of our process here. So let's go on to the rules. This is the focus of this demo. So during the stage of the request, I can assign custom extensions that I created earlier. So in this case, I want to create a process that says when the assignment is granted, I want to send a custom welcome email. So I pick assignment is granted, and I want to say send custom welcome email. So that is the extension I want. So now I've created the access package. And while I wait for that here, so now it's eligible to go and be assigned to. But we haven't actually created the logic in the Logic app. So let's actually go back to my catalog. And I can see that here's the Logic app that I provisioned earlier. So let's actually go and add some logic to the Logic app. So when I click on the application of the Logic app, it opens up in the designer here, or the UX. I can see the overview of the application. And we actually, when you create it from our template, we actually tag it with a purpose, Azure AD Entitlement Management. This is to help you if you have large amounts of Logic apps, why this Logic app was created, just for scalability and manageability going forward. But let's actually look at what this Logic app is doing from the template. So you may not be familiar with logic apps, but it's a low code or no code capability of building complex processes to do these sort of actions. So in this case, our template is listening in for when it's invoked, what are we actually presenting to this logic app? And this is the schema that provides the parameters that are presented here. So when that request is made, the values will be passed to the parameters of this logic app. And in here, I can say, if the catalog ID, which is the one I created earlier, matches, we're actually going to go through down this logic path. But it could be any sort of condition that you're looking to do in your business process. So because what I want to do is something really simple, I'm just going to remove the default here. I'm going to add an action. And because we have this rich catalog of actions and connectors built in the logic apps, I'm actually going to look for sending an email. So because in my environment, I have O365, and I have Exchange, I'm going to send an Auth365 email. So I can say send, and I can see there's the default action here. So I'm going to say welcome, but I want to be able to use dynamic content, and this comes back to what did I pass into the request here. So actually, I don't want welcome here. 1 second. I actually want to send to the to. So because the target of the assignment is the person I'm adding, I want to use the target email, and maybe in the subject, I want to say welcome, and I want to play the display name that was provided in that request, and I'll say welcome aboard to work on our collaboration. Thank you for joining from. Now, because I'm using those policies of entitlement management, I actually have passed in the connected organization name. So when I created that connected org in my environment, I actually can reuse that centrally for these kind of tasks. So I want to basically say, welcome coming from your organization. And maybe I want to use some additional information about the request. So maybe I want to put when it was created. You can really be prescriptive of what you want to include in the mail here. It's just a simple example. So now I have created the email. So when this logic app is fired, I'm going to send an email to the target of the request with this information here. So let's save this. And the logic app is now ready to be fired. So we can see the history of when it runs and everything else with logic apps. So now as an end user, let's go and actually request access to that. And I believe I saved it here. So this is the access package URL for what I'm going to request. So if you remember, I named the package this. This is the description. And I asked, what part of the organization are you working with? So I'm going to say the accounting team. And we need to collaborate. Now, as a requester, I could pick I only want it for a month. It really depends on the policy, that time span that's defined. So I'm just going to take the defaults here. Now, because my test user, notice the browser is different color. This is no longer the admin who's purple. Does not exist in the tenant yet. There's no user object to scope to, but because I can scope it to the organization that they're coming from, I can allow them to onboard into my tenant. So I'm actually going to say, yes, I'm going to consent to joining the organization. Now, as the admin here, I actually had set this as the requester. So let's actually go to the My Access portal as the approver of that request. So we can see momentarily, we will have a request here to approve. And we can see this is the user who's requesting access here. I can look at the details. I can actually look at the request details. I can see that, yes, they need to collaborate. And what part of the organization they're coming from? Accounting. So yes, I think this is appropriate. Welcome. And I'm going to approve that. So now in the actual access, it is actually being approved, and it will be assigned and delivered. So at this point, I'm expecting as the end user, so if I actually go to the end user who made the request, we should see that custom email be sent to me once it's fully delivered. So I'm not going to go into the UX of my entitlement management to follow it, but as an end user, I requested it, it was approved, and now I'm expecting for this to show up here. And let's go and look. Identity governance. Let's go to catalogs. And we can see assignments. It's still delivering here. So it hasn't actually hit the phase yet. So let's make sure it gets to delivered. And it's delivered. So now we should see and there we go. So an example of my custom email, I sent it from my account. Welcome to board. Here is the package name and so forth. So really simple example of using the custom actions to send custom emails in Logic Apps. And I just want to go back and show what it actually looks like in the instance of these applications or of those Logic Apps. So if I go back to the catalog, back to here, and I have to look at that Logic App again. Maybe I want to troubleshoot what happened. When did it fire? So because it's a Logic App, we actually have the whole run history, trigger history, all the metrics around Logic Apps. And I could see that when this was last fired, what actually was presented. Oh, look, these are all the parameters that were presented into the Logic App itself. You can see ID partner, target display name, and so forth here. All right. And then I can see as it went through what actually was sent, and there's the email and everything else. So this is a great way for you to troubleshoot or to get visibility into the actions that happened using Logic Apps. So I hope this was a good example of how you can build your own custom Logic Apps to build custom extensions into entitlement management and bring identity governance to your organization. Thank you.